All right, let's welcome everybody out today to episode 61 of Utah in the Weeds. My name's Chris Holifield.
And I'm Tim Pickett.
Today we have a very special guest. I'm going to jump in here and introduce this one, Tim, just because she holds a special place in my heart. She's my wife. I'm excited because she gets to share her story and kind of integrate a little bit of my life into that too, so listeners can kind of even find out a little bit more about my cannabis regimen by listening to her story. So.
Yeah, and this was a good conversation to have, Chris. She has a great story. It resonated with me, and I think it's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners because it's just a real story.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to get to know people who are willing to share some of the things that are hard for them, and this was good. Plus, we talk about edibles, tinctures, making your own, and go through all of this stuff. So if you're interested in making your own tinctures, you're making your own edibles from the flower that's here in Utah, this is a great one.
Yeah, and so listen, and maybe you'll learn something new. Maybe you'll discover some new ways you can consume cannabis. And then reach out to Krissie. Let her know you heard her on the podcast. Say, hey, you know what? I enjoyed you on Utah in the Weeds. You know what we didn't talk about? And actually, I want to give her some credit now. Krissie is the one behind the whole logo. Utah in the Weeds logo.
Oh, that's right. If you have any merch that is Utah in the Weeds, Krissie.
Yeah, she's the one.
Thanks to Krissie. She's awesome.
Yeah, I meant to bring that up when we were chatting with her. I completely spaced it. There was so much more I wanted to talk with her.
She's incredibly creative. When it comes to that sort of stuff, there's no doubt.
Any housekeeping you want to talk about? You're open in Provo.
We're open in Provo. I mean, we are going to listen for the announcements on clinic openings south of Provo. They're coming. I'll have more information in the next couple of weeks, I think, on those. Now, the pharmacies that are opening up, we have no idea when Justice is going to open yet. We've heard maybe mid-June on that, and Bloom in Cedar City. Still don't have a hard line on that. They were supposed to be open already, but we'll update you as soon as we can. Be sure to go to utahmarijuana.org/podcast, where all of our podcast episodes are. They're uploaded every week.
Yeah, and if you're a listener and you're interested in coming on the podcast, I say this on every episode, reach out to Tim or myself. Let us know, because we'd love to bring you on.
Absolutely.
We'd love to have you share your story. Even if you don't think you have a story, you'd be surprised because you probably have a pretty cool story. So let's get into that conversation with Krissie, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a good one, you guys. Enjoy it, and thanks for listening to the podcast. I know you're my wife. I hear stories.
When did that happen?
I hear stories about that too.
We have obviously consumed together, and I'd love to even maybe share some of those stories on the podcast.
I like to call it the peace pipe.
The peace pipe.
Ooh, that's cool.
But I'd like to even go back with you, Krissie, to the beginning times of you using cannabis, how it was for you, the experience, your thoughts. Let's go back to that time.
Oh. Well, once upon a time, a long time ago, I visited a college roommate when I was about 18 up in Washington. And I was a very good LDS girl, grew up, did everything I was supposed to do. And, I let loose this one time with a friend, and she's like, hey, try this. And it did not go well. I was very paranoid. I had to walk out to the car and unlock the car to get something. And the whole time I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get arrested. Everyone's going to... I was just freaking out. So I've avoided it since then. And what am I? It's almost 20 years later now?
Yeah.
And I've just kind of rediscovered it this year.
Oh, this year?
Or last year, maybe?
Wow.
Do you think this horrible time.
Do you think that paranoia comes both from the cannabis, the THC experience, plus growing up the way you grew up, being out of town, being at a friend's house, all of us, you've done all of the quote-unquote wrong things all of a sudden.
That's true. I did not have a good, spiritual guide, did I?
Right. Nobody gave you permission. It's not like mom said, hey, you know what? I know you're going out of town. It's going to be okay. You can smoke a little weed and experiment. Had you had that, maybe it would have been a little different.
Yeah. I think you're very spot on there. And I never would have thought about it. I just blamed the weed.
I just wonder, this story that you tell is very common. The first time I tried it, I hated it. I was so paranoid.
You don't know what to expect.
Yeah. The unknowing, I don't have permission, I'm doing something bad. All of that's got to compound Besides the fact that THC makes you paranoid if you
Right.
use it out of context.
It can, it can increase your adrenaline and excitement levels, but excitement, stress, anxiety, it's all related. It's like sides of the coin.
So did you do it a lot? Did you use cannabis a lot during that time, or it was like that was one and done?
Just that one night. However, watching TV was exciting when I was safe inside. But, I kind of avoided it because I just thought it was bad for me forever. And then I had a lot of things that I went through and developed PTSD. And I had to get really heavily medicated. I was committed for a minute. And, it was a really dark time. And I went through years and years of lots of anxiety meds, having to take sleeping meds to be able to sleep, and then also take blood pressure meds so that I wouldn't dream when I was sleeping because I had such bad night terrors that, it was just like controlling my life. And the only way I could figure out how to get around it was to start drinking. So I would just drink.
You drank a lot.
A lot.
Heavy drinker.
Heavy. I mean, I have like a steel stomach, man. It's like runs in my blood. That's not good. But it was the only thing that kind of just really numbed it and made me tired enough that I could actually sleep. And I leaned way too heavily into it because the meds weren't really helping that much. And anyway, I'm a hot mess.
Did the drinking help?
This is interesting because it did help in one way. It helped in the sense that it allowed me to kind of release a lot of the heavy anxieties and be a little more present, like enjoy what I was doing as opposed to worrying about everything else a little bit. But at the end of the day, you don't remember it as much when you wake up. It's not like, this is going to sound weird, but it helps you numb everything so you can just keep going. But it's a haze.
Like a false.
It's like, you're like, I know I'm doing stuff, but I don't know how everything is right now, really. It seems okay. And then when I rediscovered cannabis, thanks to you and, fabulous husband, I've been
Which
learning
I would like
about...
to get into that too, about how you keep going.
So, because I
put a
think
pin there.
there's a point at which maybe the whole time you were drinking, you knew. I mean,
I knew. I was like, I just don't know what else to do.
And so you knew you were using it as kind of a medication.
Oh, absolutely.
And you knew, what, one day I'm going to have to deal with this.
Yeah. Oh, the whole time in the back of my head. I'm like, but you know what?
But it's
right
not
now,
today.
I cannot survive today if I don't numb some
You were
of
just
these.
looking to get through the day.
My fight, flight, or freeze response has probably been at a 12 for the last, I don't know, 10 years.
Out of 1,000.
1 to 10, it's a 12. No, but it really, my fight or flight response is really bad. I still, poor Chris, have a hard time knowing when to react appropriately in situations. But then learning about cannabis and the different like cannabinoids and the different, what's the word?
Strains or
Well, the
Terpenes. I always want to say tannins. Terpenes. It's been really amazing because I found some terpenes that are really helpful and strains that are really helpful that actually calm my mind. What it does as opposed to drinking, which just kind of numbs everything, is it kind of calms my mind and I can see what's going on. I can understand what's happening, but it doesn't worry me as much because I feel like I can actually calm down and think through it logically and then kind of talk myself out of being anxious.
But I want to visit that for a second because this goes off to a side thing of you. But drinking helps you sleep compared to cannabis, though. So that's
I'm very weird. I have weird reactions to cannabis. I think.
Yeah.
I can't sleep on like everyone else takes it to sleep, right? And I think that's fabulous, right? Because I would love to sleep, but my mind. I think it's because of my ADHD. When I consume cannabis, I get very mentally stimulated and I just can't stop my brain. I can't stop thinking. I get very motivated and
You've
so
tried
sometimes
all kinds of strains too.
I have,
this, right? Like
yeah.
Chris and I have talked a little bit about it.
About my strains?
Well, about your situation because I want to understand it because dude, I take a few puffs, I'm out.
It works for you, and I cannot figure out why it doesn't work for me. But I decided I'm just going to take advantage of it and use it when I need when I need it, and nighttime is not that time, I guess. Figure something else out there.
It just goes to show you that everybody has a different experience with it, And maybe one day you'll find something. I mean, Monday you'll be like, hey,
so.
this new thing or this thing I made, this edible I made, which I'm really excited to talk about, by the way.
Yeah.
Right, like, boom, you're out.
Pinch.
Right,
Like,
you're
found the ticket.
okay. And I have been I'm like really crazy, and I've been really excited about learning how to moderate everything and track it. I started like journals. If I infuse this much oil and I take 3 pills in the morning, 3 pills in the afternoon, how many milligrams is that? Or I had all of the math broken down, and I was tracking it for a while. I was actually doing really good.
Yeah.
And then I ran out of cannabis and I got lazy and I have to just go make oil again. That's so bad. But I found for me that ingesting it works best for me. For some reason, smoking it seems to trigger my asthma and my allergies. And
Yeah.
so I get really bad. I feel like I have really bad allergies and wheezy. And so it's, I have to find my method. And I think there might still be another one out there, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, because I'll invite you in to use the volcano with me or something, and you just can't do it with your throat.
It's so
It
lame. All right,
bothers-
I'm going to tell
it.
you something else. Even if you can do it, when you are an almost 40-year-old lady who has had 4 kids and you're going to smoke, you're going to cough a lot. And you know what happens when you cough a lot? You pee your pants. And I'm just being honest, and all of you
she's being
ladies know
honest.
it.
Yeah,
Because it's like, I'm just like, it's not even worth it. I don't want to change my pants. So.
I hear this. The coughing, the laughing, the jogging.
Do you hear, oh man, all the
Yeah.
time? Yeah, I'll sneeze
Oh,
and
I
then yell,
can't
oh
jump rope."
man.
Sorry, I can't jump rope today.
It's worth
Yeah.
it though. It's worth it. Kids are cute. We love them.
So, talk to me about. I remember when you and I first started even dating, you were very intimidated by cannabis. You were
Oh, yeah.
very.
How long have you guys been married?
4 years. We actually just celebrated our 4-year wedding. Went to Denver for our 4-year wedding
Oh
anniversary.
yeah, we talked a little bit about
we'll
that. How
have to
the
talk.
prices are the same.
Yeah, I was
was
very
disappointing.
I was very surprised. I was like, what does everybody complain about in Utah? This is we have it better in Utah. I mean, we can get into that.
Well, I
but,
have thoughts on that too.
So, but I remember when you and I first started dating and got married and because you've always been more of an alcohol person and I've always been more of a marijuana person, just because of the way it agrees with me.
Well, and it's
versus
interesting
you.
because we've discussed our differences there and why
Yeah.
it works better for us, and
Yeah.
really
Well, I would
interesting.
imagine with your GI stuff, the alcohol
just
tears you up.
it tears
I
me
mean,
up
it
in the
could- it could.
histamines and all of that.
And that I never really experienced. So I'm like, I'm just going to take your word for it. It makes you feel miserable.
Yeah.
You know?
What made you finally give cannabis a chance? I felt like you were kind of nervous to really give it
Oh
a
my
chance.
gosh, I was so nervous. I was so nervous because I just was so afraid. I don't know how my mind and body will react, right? You know, with alcohol, I've been drinking for a couple of years. I mean, I didn't drink till I was like 30, but then I kind of figured out which ones worked for me. And you know, like whiskey's going to give you a headache because it has whatever in it, and tequila's not. So yay tequila.
Yeah.
But with cannabis, I have no idea. I don't know how I'm going to respond. And so it's more of a fear, like I'm familiar with this and I know how to live like this, but I don't know what'll happen if I try that. You know?
don't know what the mind shift is going to be like.
Right.
If you're going to be yourself.
Totally. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like make sense or be spacey or, and I was
Be
just
able to
too
take care of my kids.
nervous. Yes. And that was a big one.
That was a big thing. Now that you brought that up, I remember that she was very nervous.
I was always like,
for
I
sleeping
want to wait
even.
till Lucy's asleep. Or, I was always like,
Right. Oh,
But you weren't
well,
afraid to
you're-
drink, though. That's what's interesting. You weren't
Well,
afraid to have some
Yeah.
drinks.
because I stay
I
more
could see it.
cognizant
I'm
drinking.
looking at Chris and I'm thinking, well, he's a little high, so I better not. I better stick with
Right.
something.
It's more that. It's more like, I'm
like-
just going to like,
I'll chill over here doing
Yeah.
my thing. He's
you
doing
tag
his
team
thing.
when you're a couple,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, having a few drinks, though, wouldn't like couch lock me, right? Or make me sit and think about one thing really intensely. Or, you know what I mean? So I was afraid I would get really distracted. And because I get distracted. Have you met me? And
Squirrel. I'm gonna.
and I'm afraid of enhancing that in any way because it's a super huge challenge for me. But you helped me, Chris helped me, and we worked through it, and we found some indicas, and it's just been. I think I've really, really found
Yeah,
it.
how did that
and I didn't
start?
even realize I just thought, I didn't realize that I was actually making an impression on you with it.
yeah.
I just thought I was, I'm being a drug dealer here. You know,
I don't
Here,
talk
try
a
this.
lot.
adding humor there for people listening. I really wasn't trying to be a drug dealer.
No, I don't talk about my feelings and
No, I
thoughts
mean
a lot,
you're
but I
caring.
watch.
It really is. You're just caring about your partner.
Yeah.
You want. I mean,
Well, I
When
didn't want
something
her to
helps
be
you.
I know what this is
sick.
like.
I didn't want her to,
your
and I
partner to
remember.
feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and you
and-
want her to use something that helps you.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this helps me
And I was
so
like, why
much.
doesn't this help you?
Like, why don't you?
You know what? Yes,
Like,
I did that to my
try 'em.
sister. I was like, you should up your ibuprofen like I did. Blah, 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 blah. She did. She had a seizure, like a pretty crazy one. And she's like, I'm just going to go get my tincture. Like after that, she's like, I'm not,
The sister
Not
in
trying to-
Washington. She has a sister in Washington, luckily, that, they're lucky up there in Washington. where
Yeah.
They're legal up there. So
like
she's,
it's really helped her. So it's kind of been
Yeah.
nice to be able to talk to her about it too. She's super LDS. She's an amazing woman. Just carried a baby for our sister-in-law.
So talk
That was a
about
rant.
how has it helped you get through your workday, especially through this last year with COVID? When you switch to working at home, we're all here at home. The kids are at home. I'm at home. You're at home. We're always
That
on
in
each
and of
other's
itself
throat, right?
is like, oh my gosh.
And you probably quickly realized that you could quickly turn into a heavy alcoholic if you're not.
Yeah, which was kind of the 2020 joke, right? And
That's
not
right.
even a joke. It was like a proven
No, it was like
fact
COVID,
that
COVID drinking.
yeah.
I'm
and
just going to day drink.
I flipped because I was like, okay, I'm at home. I'm in a safe space. This is a good time for me to try cannabis and see how it affects. I don't have to like work. I can just be at home safely and sit on the couch and think. And so it was actually a really good thing for me because it allowed me to do so many tests and trial and errors and try the strains and try different oil infusions. And I had the time to do it. And I don't think that I would have done that if I had to keep going to work every day because I never would have found the time. It just would have been too stressful. So I swapped during 2020, and I'm so glad I did because cannabis helped me so much when we got COVID. I could not make it through a day without probably 60 milligrams.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
THC.
Yeah. And now I actually have
Yeah, you're dealing with a lot of post-COVID
I'm
symptoms.
what they call a long hauler or something. So a lot of my physical symptoms, probably all of them, are still here, and some of them are getting worse. So I don't know if I'll ever be able to get rid of it. Disclaimer, I know maybe I should try keto, but I'm not going to right now because I want to eat bread.
Well, that's what she's
That might help.
realizing.
I'm like,
maybe
keto would probably help. I have arthritis,
Yeah.
tendonitis, fibromyalgia, and just everything
Your
hurts all the
wrists.
time. My
Talk
wrists,
about
my
your
fingers.
wrists and-
I work with my fingers, and they
Yeah.
hurt so bad all the time that I can barely move them. And so, cannabis has really helped me continue to power through and continue to work where I don't think I would be able to work right now if I didn't have it to help me kind of set the pain aside in my head and be able to focus on other things.
Right. It's not that it takes away the pain, right?
Yes.
It's just
which
that,
surprised me. Because
it?
everybody's like, oh, take it for pain. And so you think it's going to be like a painkiller.
the expectation is, oh, I take ibuprofen, it makes me feel better. I can't take ibuprofen anymore because it gave me ulcers.
Yeah.
This is good for pain. It should act the same.
Exactly.
Surprise.
Yeah.
And no one really talks about, I'm sure it affects everyone differently. Maybe it does remove pain for some people.
Some people, but a lot of people, it just gives them a break,
Yeah.
a mental break.
Yes, that's exactly what it does for me. I always feel all the nerves in my hands and my feet, and I constantly feel like nerves on fire, even when I'm medicating with cannabis. But when I am medicated, it's kind of like it's like more of a soft feeling in the back of my head where I'm like, I know that hurts. I can still feel it, but it's not controlling me.
And you're
as
able
much.
to focus on your work even better because you're not distracted by the
By the
By the
pain.
pain.
Yeah, it's more of a like feels like they're falling asleep. Things that hurt without cannabis feel like they're kind of asleep. Is that weird? I don't know. I don't know what other people experience.
See, and I don't know what other people experience either. That's the fun of this podcast, really, is to listen. I was listening back to some older episodes over the last few days, and it's so interesting the different experiences that we all experience, right? Because I'm like, man, so-and-so just explained a similar thing, but what they experience is so different than this person and this person and this person.
Yeah.
And
that's why you really have to be
find
able
your
to
thing.
find your thing. Yeah. And we really need more I mean, I know everyone's trying, but I really, really hope that there will be good resources available. I know, Tim, your place, UtahMarijuana.org, you guys have awesome, like when I went into your office, you had this little packet and actually everything was so pretty that I still have it because you have these perfect little graphs explaining all the terpenes and how they help you. And it was
like
just,
we take a few
it was eye-opening.
concepts.
Yeah, but
because
people
everybody
don't even
has
do
different. Yeah, it's true. I don't know. I get really cynical that there's so much money to be made in selling weed that nobody cares about, like doing any education about like why we should use this a certain way. Or recently we released a video about addiction versus is marijuana addictive or is it just habit forming? And man, people get uptight when you say, well, no, it's not addictive, but if you smoke 5 joints a day, you're going to have withdrawal symptoms if you quit.
Of course,
well, you're not going to feel great,
you don't
obviously.
feel great. And people get so mad.
What were they saying?
That's
like,
different than addiction.
I can quit today and it doesn't matter. Well, yeah, you won't die.
Yeah.
But that's not having like a...
You'll feel miserable again is what will happen. You'll go back to normal and then you'll be mad about it.
You'll be mad about that.
I think people are scared
don't want
to admit that it might be a little addictive because they don't want their cannabis to be screwed with.
Taken away.
Yeah.
I don't want this taken away.
Or
I want
judged.
more access.
People are still...
We think it should be legal. But look, I mean, you've got to have both sides of the story.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you need to talk about it.
Yeah.
So
and that's
Krissie,
what, is so fascinating. Like, the science behind it. I'm so excited about all the stuff coming out and the ability to actually be able to study it now.
Yeah, I think
Well, we still can't study it enough. I mean, there's still not the capabilities of truly studying it.
I mean, we're obviously at the tiny piece of snow on the tip of the iceberg of understanding, for sure, which makes me excited because our knowledge will just continue to grow as a society, hopefully.
Sorry, I'm switching gears here. Did you consciously use cannabis to quit alcohol?
I did, yeah.
Like
I didn't really tell anyone. I don't like telling people things because then I feel like I'm going to fail. So I don't really know if I told you, Chris. You were just kind of like, why aren't you drinking all of a sudden? Yeah. And he was like really confused.
A lot of weight.
Yeah, he got really skinny. Are you sure you don't want me to go to the liquor store? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. and I could tell he was really confused.
But you didn't want to give it away because for fear it would
I didn't want to contaminate.
Right?
I didn't want to contaminate my hypothesis. So I always, whenever I want to kind of try something, I'll get a notebook and write kind of a hypothesis or, a problem statement. And then I want to study it without any exterior, interference, I guess, or without anybody's opinions. Like, I just want to study the facts, see how it works out, and then apply it if I like it. And so I did that a lot with cannabis. It took a lot of my time. I was working really hard on it in my spare time because I didn't want to start doing it if I didn't have a plan, which is not like me at all.
I don't know why.
You're rubbing off on me. What is wrong? I never do that stuff. But I forgot where I was.
You had a plan to use cannabis to get off alcohol, to quit drinking.
And it actually happened. So I got appendicitis.
Oh,
got my appendix out.
This all happened over COVID, man. She had to go in and get her appendix out right at the beginning.
Right when we got COVID. Yeah.
When everything's on lockdown and you're like, I got to go into the hospital by myself to get my appendix out.
I was it was about to burst and I was making tea and I'm like, I'm just going to drink some hot tea. I probably have gas. I'm not going to go to the emergency room because they're just going to tell me I'm constipated. I fought it for a while and that was probably a bad idea. But
this is what I did literally for 6 years of my life is take care of people like that. And so often people would come in with burst appendicitis, septic. And I'm like, I swear it was just thought it was gas.
It's hard because if you have internal pains a lot, like stomach pains, you're just like, oh, there's another one. You don't really think it's anything different. But then it just gets worse and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I think we need to pay a little more attention to our bodies, probably, I would say.
And admit when things are bad. But the system should be easier to access, too.
Absolutely.
You got to go to the ER. You got to register. You're going to be there 6 hours. Yeah. It's all day. You've got kids. You've got other things going on. That's not a very easy process to navigate.
It was very tricky. And when I came out, I was sick for couple of weeks with COVID. And I was just, for some reason, I was like, you know what? That was like such a horrible experience. That was so painful before I finally went in. I want to start taking a little bit better care of myself. And like, I should probably like tone it down with the drinking. You know, just like, let's try it. Let's see if anything else can help me stay calm. So I was really doubled down on it during COVID while I was like really sick. I got some gummies because I had applied to be a patient, so I was already a patient.
Yeah.
And just testing things. And it really helped me be able to get up and function, even though I was so sick. I mean, it was harder to do things when I had COVID than when I was about to burst with my appendix. I was like, this is harder because my whole body is just destroyed. And it allowed me to actually get up and sit for a few hours and work or help the kids or have a conversation with somebody. Because when I'm in pain, I don't like to talk. And I was like, I have to keep, I'm still kind of on that path. Like I have to keep investigating. But I feel like I feel like it's given me a part of myself back that I forgot existed. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Like I've
so you just
found more of myself.
So edibles, you were getting edibles. You started getting into the tinctures and the edibles because, again, let's go back to the smoking here. Remember, the listeners, it bothered your throat, right?
Yeah.
So it bothered your throat, even though like my
That's why I've never been
is,
cool.
Well, my preferred has always been flower, right? Like I just
Right.
give it to me the raw, the real, the organic way. There's no additives. I don't have to worry about anything, right? And so I always
And that is the best.
And yeah,
Do
ideally,
you feel like the experience is better when you smoke it? You just can't really tolerate it? Because we're going to get into this, like you make stuff.
Oh yeah, I love making stuff. It's different. My favorite, really, the thing that I found works the best is to take about 30 milligrams edible in an oil or whatever, and then very slowly microdose with a vape, because I can't take like a big hit on a vape or anything because it's just destroys my throat.
just like a little one here and there.
Yeah,
throughout
just
the
a little
day.
tiny one here and there to kind of, keep the edge off, I guess. I don't know.
Yep, it's called
because
layering.
they do. Oh, really? That's a thing?
Yeah, layering.
Nice. Well, it seems to work better than just one or just the other.
Yeah.
I feel smoking really probably works the least best for me that I've felt, because it doesn't have the kind of the deep long-term effect that edibles do have with my mind and body.
And do you find that you're using an edible that is getting you're getting a little bit of head change, or you're right at that level where you feel like you could do all of the normal stuff during the day? You're almost, I hate to use the word microdose especially with 30 milligrams, because like for
Not
me,
exactly a
30 milligrams would be a lot.
microdose.
That's not exactly a microdose. But
Thank you,
but to
COVID. I could
some
not take
people-
that much before COVID.
Some people, though, 30 milligrams is a microdose. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about a dose that you take because you know that's kind of a baseline.
Yes.
That's a good baseline dose for me, and then I can add to it a little bit here and there with something inhaled if I need to.
Yeah, that's exactly what I found works the best for my situation. And I've tried different strains, been studying different strains, and then I'll try them in different oils and see how I respond to those, and taking notes, and
Where are you getting most of your
Okay,
information though for like note taking? Because I know,
It's a
you
good
have
question.
You have books, and I mean, is it just all
I do
over
have books.
Google?
Okay,
or-
when I went in for my first appointment to get my card at your office, my provider recommended this book.
Women in Cannabis.
It's like, a woman's guide to cannabis.
Yeah.
And she kind of walked me through it and explained a lot of things to me. And she's like, you have to get this book. So I got that book. And
That's the one I got you for Christmas. Right?
Yeah, you got it for Christmas
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
Thank you. It's super pretty. It's like the cutest book in the world. And it's very informative. It's a lady who's been making things to help people for a long time, and actual experiences. And then she gives recipes and explains why. Like, I found out, I think from her, that emu oil is the best lotion to absorb into your skin. So if you want to make it topical, you should infuse emu oil. And you need to have a carrier oil, like a menthol or something, or it will not help pull the THC into your bloodstream as well. So there's all these little tiny tricks that I've learned from reading books and some internet. Like, it has to be a real site. you know?
Sure, like you go read a blog post and then got to go confirm it somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Like, whoa, that's a great idea. Is that really true? I'm going to go double check it 3
It's
or 4
like
times.
you start at Reddit, right? And then you're like, all right, down the rabbit hole.
It's like when you came to me, Chris, do you know if you eat mangoes, you can get a better high? You know?
I did. I got so excited. Except I hate mangoes. I was like, I didn't know mangoes, could affect that. But then aren't there like terpenes in mangoes? And that's what does it. It's just so interesting.
Yeah,
it's
the
just
terpenes
fascinating.
in mangoes, and it would adjust the absorption time. And like sativas, like limonene will make things absorb a little faster. Sativas tend to hit a little hard. Yeah.
Let's talk about that. Let's
talk about making things.
Yeah. So we got it. You did some research on a Levo. You got the Levo 2.
Yes,
Let's talk about that for the listeners, so people that are listening might even be interested to know about the Levo, because we've had 2 Levos go on us now.
And I've this is sad because I really wanted to love Levo. So Levo is it looks like a coffee machine, but it's an infusion machine for oils and whatever kind of herbs you would prefer to use. So I got one and started making oils. I think I was able to make 4 batches. And
not big ones either, though.
Not big ones.
No.
Like,
okay, how much are we talking? An eighth?
Probably 2/8. What is that? 1/4?
Quarter? Yeah, so
Look,
you
I
get a
don't
quarter,
do math.
Got it.
So like a quarter to
you get
about
a quarter.
a quarter cup of MCT oil.
Okay.
Because you want it really dense. Otherwise, you have to just take a ton of it.
Do you buy the MCT oil, like the clear MCT oil at Costco?
That is literally exactly the one I use. Yeah, with a little spray.
Yep.
Sprays in there.
You spray it in
I
there.
love it. Not messy. Yeah, and then I learned about the sunflower
lecithin.
I don't want to say words. Yeah, lecithin, and how that helps. And I tried different ratios of lecithin with different amounts of flour and MCT oil, and it
you
was
can
so much
adjust the
fun.
strength of your oil based on how much oil you use.
Yes, yeah. The
more oil to cannabis, the weaker.
Yes.
Did you find like a calculator online?
Lots of them. I found about 3 or 4 calculators, and then I would use each one of them every time and see which one
Are they different?
They're different. Well,
Holy shit.
they're different because they
How
calculate differently. So they're trying to come up with different outcomes based on the information you give them. So it's like one of them would tell you in a dose, if you put everything in, what a dose would be. And how big, like if it's a half teaspoon, here's how much is in it. And then another one, it did it backwards, and it really confused me. Like it only told you how much was in all of it, but then you couldn't break it down. It was really weird, and it didn't make sense. And I tried it forever and ever, and then so I kind of like studied calculators, and then found one that made sense to me.
Got it.
Yeah.
This is another reason why people don't make their own edibles.
It's a lot, and it gets really expensive because you have to do so much trial and error, and you have to continue to buy these things, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I spent so much money.
You just used an eighth of flour or a quarter.
And it lasts about a week, I would say, an eighth in an oil.
For you.
For me. Yeah, I don't know, everyone's different.
So you make this oil, and then you have essentially your own strain. Does your house stink?
Sometimes.
There's sometimes, and that's a touchy subject with me, because I learned you don't want to point out, because she gets very self-conscious if you bring up that it smells.
You're like, it smells dank.
Okay, well, this is a different thing, Tim, and this is actually something I'd love to talk about too, and I don't want to get too sidetracked.
Let's get all the skeletons
Krissie and I come
out.
from 2 different worlds. Krissie doesn't understand that if it smells like marijuana, then you got to be a little concerned because you don't want the neighbors to smell it. Krissie comes from a world of, well, why is this illegal?
It's a
Why
plant.
is this, you know what I mean? She doesn't understand why it's something to be concerned about. Like, what if the neighbor comes and knocks on the front door and wants to come inside and say, what's that smell?
Wow.
You know?
And here's the problem with me. I'd be like, oh, that's my cannabis oil. like I'm just whatever.
Because you come from a different world, because
do.
you're more of a new school person.
Very.
So you don't understand the repercussions.
I don't have the fear.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I should have a
unfortunately-
I have a little more. I should have a little more.
I mean, society should be more like that, right? Like, you walk in, you're like, oh, it smells like skunks in here. You must be making medicine.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like,
Right?
what's the big deal?
But I'm the type of person that's like, that's
wow.
2 or 3
pretty
years in
strong.
jail right there. You know?
I'd be making it, and Chris would come into the kitchen and go, "Oh man, it stinks in here."
Yeah.
And I'd just like get all mopey and walk away.
And I didn't realize I wasn't trying to be insulting. It was
No,
just,
you're just like, wow, it's strong. It
That's some
smells strong.
potent, skunky,
It doesn't take
pungent
very,
stuff.
right? It doesn't take very long for the nose to
Oh, yeah.
get used to it, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Unless
Well,
I've
that's the
gone home
problem.
from like Zion, if I was visiting somewhere,
Your wife's like, whoa.
right? You're like, oh my gosh, or my daughter, she gets in the car and she's like, oh my gosh, it smells like skunks in here, Dad.
That is really tough. And it's like, but I think people who are a little more naive like me think, oh, well, I'm going to make it in the oil and I'll just be able to like open the windows and air it out really quick, just like any other herb. And so, I'm sitting here hoping I can make it and it won't bother anyone and nobody will notice. And then when someone points it out, I get all like butthurt.
But anyway, it doesn't, back to your question, Tim, it doesn't smell horrible. The Levo does a pretty good job masking. There's only a few moments during there. I think when you're opening the canister for a second, it lets out a whiff.
And you can never scrub the smell off of it
No,
quite
because it's
so.
silicone, right?
Yeah.
It has silicone
and the metal
parts.
even. Yeah.
Oh, the
Oh,
metal.
well, some silicone parts and some metal. Both.
So have you tried
long
a
as you
different
keep it closed,
kind?
you're
You've
fine.
had 3 Levos?
Well, that's
2?
explaining too. But they're all broken.
Yeah, they're all broken.
So are you switching over to the? There's a few other ones. There's one that's purple.
That's the one I want.
Yeah,
That's
I
I
can't
was showing
remember
you.
the name of it.
Yeah, you guys talked
shoot,
about it
what's-
on a previous episode, and that's how I found out about
I
it.
wouldn't even know where to
think.
start Googling. I said I could Google it, but
Oh my gosh, I don't remember the name of it, but it's purple and it looks like a thermos, right?
Yes.
And you put it in, and it's like an all-in-one, like a
it's
thermos
an-
that you just
put it in. You put
use.
You put your weed in there, and then you push go.
but now you haven't really made anything for a while, right?
No, I started using our Instapot.
Yeah. for
Because
just
both of the
decarbing.
Levo. So my first Levo broke, and I wrote, and I'm like, "Can I trade it in? What can I do?" And they're like, "Well, it's COVID. Keep it. We'll send you a new one." So I got another one, and I was like, "Holla!"
Yeah.
I mean, one doesn't work, but hey, 2 Levos.
Yeah, you got 2 of them.
And then I made 3 batches of oil, and the second Levo stopped turning on. And so I'm just really bummed because I want to love it. It's such a great product. It's
How
so
can
cool.
this be so hard?
But you're not the only one who deals with this. I mean,
No,
if you go to
it's
the
pretty
Levo
common.
Facebook group, I would say 90% of the people in the Facebook group are
Are
like,
pissed.
this thing,
They should
the
be
door
using
broke. or-
more solid materials
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying.
they're
right?
trying,
They're hopefully,
exactly.
when they rebrand as a different name and delete that Facebook page, it will all be fine.
Then it'll be okay.
Right,
But yeah,
this
so
other one, but
I gave
there's
it a good
few
try.
different ones.
Magic butter or something.
Yeah, there's the
that-
magic butter
I've
machine.
heard of the magic butter. I've heard that's good for big batches, but in all reality, when am I going to have enough money to make a big batch?
Yeah, and what is it like?
I-
I'm
you know.
going to put a whole ounce in there. That I
More
feel like
commercial.
you need to go.
Yeah.
No.
we need to grow our own.
Yeah.
for
That
big batches.
is what I cannot wait for. I can't wait till we can actually grow our own because I'd really like to even make raw smoothies. You know,
yeah.
it would be so great to add it as greens to things without
Decarb.
Words are so hard, you guys. Decarboxylating it. And there's still a lot of health benefits.
Yeah, you could decarb it slightly too. You could do things like you're going to get some of the raw effects, but you're going to decarb just like really lightly. There's some teas you can make that are that way.
Really?
There's an Indian tea called bong that's it's really lightly
It's
decarbed.
called bong. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, but it's like it's a tea that's only lightly decarboxylated, so it's not super psychoactive. Now, if you overcook the tea, no guarantees.
See that I need to learn more about
But see,
that.
stuff like that, I mean, you'd really like.
Oh, I would love it. See, I've just been mixing the oil into like chais or matcha tea, and or taking the leftovers after I make the oil and soaking them like a tea bag in a coffee or something to absorb what's left
Whatever.
over.
It's almost now we're talking about like the tannins.
Ooh, is that what we're? See, I don't know what it is, but it's lovely.
Like the plant. You're making a
Yeah.
tea. So, oh man, I just lost my train of thought. I'm just
welcome.
fascinated by this, by this cooking your own stuff. So the Instapot, what the
Oh yeah.
hell?
So
Have you heard of people using an Instapot?
No.
oh
but
man, I will
but I mean, the
figure it
oven-
out if I need to.
The oven, it seems like that would just make your house stink.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that's just
I've
wide
never tried the
open.
oven.
I mean, that's just a recipe for the neighbors.
Yeah, that's why
Call
I'm
the
like,
cops.
I think it would be the best way to do it because you can evenly distribute everything and, but
How about the
I don't-
Instapot?
meh.
Can you control the temperature?
you can, well, kind of. So I use a pressure cook setting and you pressure cook it on high, which is, I believe, 250 degrees.
You learned this on the internet.
Yeah, I did.
The internet's a beautiful thing.
Yes.
YouTube's the greatest search engine.
All right. So you put it in the Instapot. You
So I put the raw flour in the Instapot. Don't grind it.
In like a
I used
mason
to
jar,
grind
though.
it.
In like a mason jar with a screwed on lid, right? So you have a lid on the
In
mason
a
jar.
couple of cups of water.
Okay.
okay?
So it's
okay.
like pressurizing. It's like I don't know. It's cooking the water and heating the flour.
I got it.
I'll break it up with my hands because if I use a grinder, I used to use a coffee grinder, but it's so sticky you couldn't get everything out of it, and it was and you really just need to get enough surface area for the oil to grab onto stuff. So you don't have to have really fine grinds.
Is the oil inside the jar already?
No, but I have heard people do that. So first I put it in on high for about, I want to say 40 minutes. And so it cooks it at 250 degrees for 40 minutes. And that is supposed to perfectly decarboxylate it. And then I open it up and put the oil in and the sunflower lecithin and shake it and, top it off, put it back in, and then put it in for another 40 minutes at high pressure. I mean, it's worked for me. I think I do like the quality that the Levo made. The quality of oil Levo made was really nice. But this works.
Do you put any flavoring in your oil?
No, should
A little blueberry, a little
I
strawberry.
don't know. I mean,
I never
just because the
thought to.
tincture, you're essentially making the same thing. They
Like you
sell
put a little
at the-
vanilla extract in there, right? Maybe
Right.
vanilla.
Can you really make it taste better, though? I mean,
well, I
it
think
does not
like
taste great.
the two flavors I've tasted are peppermint or cinnamon, like something strong.
Oh, kind of like an
It's-
overpowering.
Yeah, something that'll basically overpower the skunk and dirt.
Interesting. I'm going to try that next time. Because it usually just tastes like dirt and bad sunflower seeds. Because the sunflower lecithin is not good tasting either.
Sunflower oil is strong, like
Yeah.
strong tasting.
You do like a half a teaspoon and it takes over, man. It's crazy.
So what about the strains are different? Can you tell like, oh, I have this oil that I like to use for this type of day and this type of pain, and you can tell a big difference between your oils?
Yes. I mean, I have kind of fallen off the wagon with the testing of the oils, but when I was, really testing everyone I could get my hands on, I found that typically I don't handle sativas very well. But if I make a sativa into an oil, it's kind of a perfect daytime edible for me because it doesn't make me as anxious as smoking it would, but it gives me the clarity and energy to kind of continue doing things. And then, like if I just want to, I don't know, relax, I like indica
You
because it's
say
just
that like-
nice.
she uses this face like relax, like what? I don't
Relax?
know
Is
what that really means.
Hey,
I've
some
heard
of us,
that's a thing. That's
it's
a
tough
thing.
to know that it's okay to just lay back and relax.
Well, it's because usually at night I'm like, we quote unquote relax, but I'm still working. Like I'm always on the computer working. And so when I'm in my relaxed working mode, I like to, Fatso. Fatso was a good one. I made oil with Fatso. And that was
There's some
really
people
good.
out there who are going to listen to this are like, oh my God, that's blasphemy.
Oh,
You've changed
because
fatso into something that is. that-
hey, come at me, bro. I'll fight for it. I am very weirdly medicinally obsessed with
That's
it.
a cool. There was some great ideas that happened with the fatso oil, I bet.
Yeah, probably. Can't remember now, but I'm sure they were great.
Yes.
I've been killing it in the brain department lately. Except for talking.
Your creative brain definitely comes out a lot more when you consume.
It helps more than any of the ADHD medications I've ever been on either. Like it helps with my anxiety more than all of those drugs. It helps with my ADHD, PTSD, my pain. Like it really helps in a better way than all of them.
If cannabis was 100% legal and we were able to grow our own I mean, would it be safe to say that you would probably be able to get off any sort of psych medication, like any sort of your medication, right?
I think so.
Would you say it's just because of the cost, because of all of that makes it hard to consume the amount you need?
Yeah, well, and I have thought about this because I don't know, and Tim, maybe you would know more about this. I don't know how THC affects people who have lower serotonin production. So I have very low serotonin production, and so I take serotonin, whatever. And I don't know if I weaned off those, if I replaced it with cannabis. I mean, I would have to stay very consistent.
It's
I could
a
not
different
forget.
pathway. So
Yeah.
THC usually works in a dopamine pathway, which is more of a reward pathway. And serotonin is that depression pathway. So it's a little different. So it's hard to know. Different people would be affected differently because sometimes I would say, maybe the serotonin is affected. You just don't feel good in general, and you can fix that by increasing the serotonin. But if you could use something else, then you wouldn't need an increase in serotonin. So I'm not saying that
That's
it's
cool.
impossible. I'm just saying they work in different pathways. So
It's like
it may
using
be
weed to
less
get off
likely-
alcohol, using dopamine to get off serotonin.
Yes. So not
Okay.
quite a one-for-one
Right.
trade-off. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
I'm
It's gonna be
oversimplifying
hard.
it.
Well, kind of, but really not. All you want to do is feel better. All you want to
Right.
do is do more that you want to do. So whatever you've got to take or supplement with to make that happen is what you should do. And I'm going to qualify that because of course you don't want to go, snort coke if that's what the path
That makes
is,
me
right?
feel great. What are you talking about?
I got some medicinal coke in here.
But what I'm saying is, like, the most natural way you can do that is with the least amount of, like, outside inputs.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, where you're just deciding for yourself.
Yeah, you're deciding for yourself and you're using the products that you feel are the best for you, and you're just moving forward. You're moving forward to feel better. Right now, you don't have access to exactly that in a totally natural way. So the choices are, some pharmaceuticals and some natural stuff. Yeah, maybe down the road, 10 years, we find out more, and you can move to all natural stuff.
Which would be so killer.
Which is cool that you're doing the journaling and the trial and error, but giving
Not
yourself
consistently.
permission. Yeah, you're
But-
doing it way more consistent than most, and giving yourself permission to do it is most of the battle.
Yeah.
Right? Like
you
we
can
talk
feel
to
really
people
guilty.
all the time, and this guilt and shame and
Yeah.
this idea that it's. I mean, still we talk about the kitchen smells like weed. Well, hopefully one day that's okay.
Well, and I think as people like Krissie come on board and get introduced to cannabis, and they bring on these new mentalities of like, wait,
Or we're
why
just
does this
so-
even have a bad stigma?
We're just so ignorant,
Yeah.
we don't know better.
It's not that you're ignorant. It's just that you realize that it's just a plant. It's just
Yeah.
Right. This is just how this smells. I bring in lavender, and my house is going to smell like lavender.
Right. You just
Right?
don't want to, fumigate your house with cannabis. It's not going to smell great.
What is your favorite strain? Do you have a favorite strain right now?
This is very tough. I really do. I love Jack Herrera
Yeah.
in an oil. I did love Mad Max too. Oh my gosh, Mad Max was really great. I put that in an oil, and it's been a while. Fatso is one that I really loved, and then the last one I had was Jack Herrera too. So those are the three that really stood out to me.
Okay.
And I know they're different. Mad Max I think is a hybrid. It
Yep.
might be more a sativa, and Jack Herrera's a sativa.
Yep.
And if I smoke it as well as take the pills, I get a little bit too anxious feeling. So I kind of, when I take sativa oil, I'll try indica vape is that weird? Or to kind of balance out, not to get too jittery, I guess. Because I can get really anxious really easy.
Talk about the capsules. You put them in Did we talk? We didn't talk about how she puts them in capsules
You just mentioned
too.
that you've got capsules. Are
Yeah.
they big capsules, little?
No, they were just regular capsules. Just like a regular little.
Like
like a
gelatin,
veggie capsule.
gelatin,
Veggie
veggie. You get them on Amazon or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I made MCT oil like the same as I always do, and then I just got a little set up and I filled capsules, and then I did the math to figure out exactly how much each capsule was, and it came to around 10 to 15 milligrams a capsule, I believe. And so then I could calculate, I'm going to take this many capsules and see how I feel for the next 4 hours. And then I'll try it again at noon and see, and I usually can tell when it wears off. I don't realize it's happening, but I get really cranky and tired. And then also I'm like,
Krissie, you need more capsules.
I know. It's such a smooth decline though. When you come off, let's say Adderall, because I take Adderall for my ADHD, much harder crash, and with cannabis, it's like you kind of ease down into it. Yeah, everything hurts and you're a little more grumpy, but it's not like all of a sudden.
Right.
And that's actually really nice. I don't think people talk about that part of it enough.
So you have a time of day where you're done taking cannabis? Because if I take this at 8 o'clock at night, then I'm going to be up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
that's true. I've never really thought about that.
It's tough because I wasn't sleeping a lot. I was working. And so I was very motivated and I would take it all the time. So now I'm trying to figure out, because now I'm getting a little bit more sleep at night. Like over the last week, I'm like, okay, let's balance this. And, so now I'm still kind of trying to figure out when a good time is, I don't know. Because if I want to go to bed, I just work until I'm tired. So I do not pay enough attention to time. It's really bad.
This is what it's like when you're married to Krissie.
And you're working at home, so it's like endless.
When does it end?
I know. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Endless availability.
Chris is so patient.
Your employers love you. They're like,
I hope so.
Oh, don't worry, she's always working.
I've always called myself an on-call designer. So, there you have it.
What would you tell somebody? This is a question I like to ask people that come through here, Krissie, is people that are listening, because I know there's a lot of people listening that are thinking about starting cannabis or thinking about, should I get my card? Should I start doing this? What would you tell somebody who maybe was like you a year and a half ago, where you were nervous, where you go back further, whatever it was. What would you tell somebody who's thinking about it, they're apprehensive, they don't know where to start, but they're nervous?
Personally, for me, if you're someone like me who you really do, like, I can only really see it as medicine. I don't really think I've gotten high. Like, I've never really gone that far with it because I don't think my brain likes that. Maybe I have once or twice, but if someone wants to think about it more medicinally, like the way I do, I would say go get 2.5 milligram. They probably don't make that 5 milligram.
No, the
gummy.
2.5.
Do they make 2.5?
That Vujam spray.
Or the spray. Yeah, get a
or
really...
any tincture, you can dial it down to 2.5 milligrams.
Yeah, and do a 1-to-1 CBD or a 1-to-2, so it's 1 THC to 2 CBD. Yeah. Try a low THC slowly and just see how you feel every couple of hours. And you have to kind of pay attention to when it helps you feel good, and then when you start to go back down, so you can assess how much you might need at what time. That sounds like a lot of work, but it's actually kind of fun.
If you can give yourself permission, or somebody gives you permission to experiment with it in that way, and you don't feel guilty, then I feel like that's huge. Then you can do the work to figure it out. But it's got to be okay. You've got to be able to take it and not think bad about yourself. Yeah, not worry about, not just about the THC, not worry about how it is perceived to you to be using this thing.
Yes. You got to realize it's going to be okay. Yeah, like this is why I'm a patient, and if someone has a problem, come talk to me. Like, but you do. It's hard to give yourself that permission. Yeah. Especially in a society or an area that we live in that has a little bit more strong of an opinion against it, No, I would say start small, because if I took 2.5 milligrams when I first started, that would have knocked me out. I would have gone nuts. Like, that was way too much. And so I really worked up super slow. And now it's like 30's nothing, or it's not nothing, but it's the perfect dose I need to feel very stable and calm.
Yeah, and I'd qualify that too. People out there who are thinking, wow, 30 milligrams, you've increased your tolerance, you're using too much, you should have stayed at 10 milligrams.
And I worry about that.
That's not true. It's just not true. People sometimes need to build up the tolerance so they can take more. So there is some research that would show your therapeutic dose is not dependent on how high you get in the beginning. You're working up to where you're feeling better. And sometimes you got to build up tolerance so that you can take 20 milligrams, because that might be the sweet spot.
Yeah.
And that takes some time. I mean, I talk to patients all the time who are taking literally 1 drop of tincture to start with, and then they're taking 2 drops, and then they're taking 3 drops, and they're working up to where they can tolerate it, and it's starting to get them the relief they want. But it's not.
Maybe
it's
a
not
tincture is a
easy.
good way to go. Yeah.
Tinctures are
Gummies are yummy.
gummies.
Tagline.
I've heard edibles you can become quite tolerant of them very quickly.
Yeah,
Edibles?
they convert over in the liver, and they
Yeah.
become almost stronger in some people.
Yeah.
See, and that is a huge thing, though, that I worry about, and I think a lot of people like me might worry about. I'm like, holy crap, my tolerance has gone up so much. Is it going to keep doing this? Is it like a hockey stick?
See, and I don't think it's that high. Like what?
Well,
Because you can
it's
take
high
30
f-
milligrams
It's high
now, and
for
it doesn't.
me. For me.
I feel like at some
It affects me
point-
differently than it used to.
Yeah,
Or at least I
I don't know. We could come
Deal
up
with
with
it better.
ways to like define tolerance, but I think your tolerance is too high if you can't afford it.
definitely.
If you can't take a break once in a while. I think it's important for people to be able to take a little bit of a break.
I think that's just more of a psychological thing. Like, oh, man, I got to take a break.
I know, right? I got to
you
take
know.
a couple of days.
You know what I mean? Like, you're like, oh, it's so good, though. You know,
Yeah.
when it hits your lips.
Well, it is sometimes really nice, even just as a reminder, like, this is how I feel normal. Take 2 or 3 days and be like, wow, this is why, you know?
This is why I need cannabis.
Yeah,
Like, I do
it
not
helps
feel good.
reaffirm that you're
Sure.
doing the right thing for yourself.
Sure. And then you're
But-
spending less money, and maybe you can refresh. Maybe we need to build in like refresh camps.
Ooh.
Right? A couple of days where you can do some things, you can do some self-exploration, find out how pissed off you are about not having cannabis.
Like a detox center or something.
But you're in the middle of the woods, so when you're screaming, no one can hear you.
But then you can reward yourself by using half as much on day 3 and having just as good of effect.
That's actually a really great idea especially for people who really need more guidance to learn how to take breaks. Like, here's a retreat, learn how to take a break and go back, work your way back up.
Work your way back up.
Yeah, I like that.
I like the idea of growing your own, being able to grow a few different strains, try them out in your kitchen, especially.
That is like the thing. Every time I make stuff, I'm like, Chris, I cannot wait till I can grow this. I just want to grow it. Like,
Well, I think you would
know?
put it in more food if you could.
Oh,
You know,
totally. I would
making some
eat it.
Well, sure,
spaghetti,
because a
you're
plant
making
would
some
grow,
bread, whatever.
a pound or 2 pounds or 5 pounds. Some of the plants just make a ton.
Yeah.
And so much more affordable.
Be a
So
little more
much
liberal
more.
with it,
And
yeah.
like, I'm super into I'm super fascinated by the effects of raw cannabis
Mm-hmm.
and like the health benefits of it. I would just love to be able to test it in my own kitchen someday.
I think it'll happen.
I think so too. I'm just saying I can't wait until, because it will happen. Just might take a minute.
I'm glad we finally were able to record with you.
Aw,
finally able to get
thanks.
you on the
Thanks
podcast.
for letting me
So
come
am I.
on.
And
This has been really fun.
yeah,
It really,
yeah, and
this was more like just hanging out.
hopefully we've enlightened some listeners, opened some eyes with the possibilities of edibles and tinctures.
Yeah, man. And I don't know anything, but hit me up if, maybe I said something that you have a question about. I don't
Let's send people
Yeah.
to your Instagram. I know a lot of our listeners are on Instagram. Lady Salt Lake is your Instagram, right?
know. Yeah, Lady Salt
Lady
Lake.
Salt?
Lady Salt, that's a cocky name. No, it was cute. I'm like, it's
Yeah.
cute.
I like it.
Thanks. But I obviously, disclaimer, not an expert. Call Tim. Tim's an expert. I just I'm really obsessed with research and science, and it's just like a nerdy outlet. So I love to find answers. If you have a question, I would love to find the answer if I have time.
I think that it's a community.
Yeah.
None of us are really experts. We're all really learning together.
We're all
I
learning.
like that. I like
Right?
that.
Like,
yeah.
I can shed some insight on certain things, and you can help people with the cooking.
Sounds good.
Any final words you want to leave with the listeners, Krissie? Anything you want to ask? Final things you want to ask her, Tim?
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for letting me come on.
And
I feel like I'm one of the cool kids now.
And you can listen to Krissie on our other podcast, I Am Salt Lake. She co-hosts that with me on there. So go
If you
listen.
can't get enough of my ramblings here,
Yeah. And then Lady Salt Lake is your Instagram. Facebook, you can connect with you. Krissie at I Am Salt Lake.
Krissie. Oh yeah, Krissie at I Am Salt Lake. KRISSIE.
And
Find Chris.
Yeah.
And then you'll find me.
Reach
We're
out to
always
her.
together.
Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast in whatever podcast app you listen to podcasts in. Leave us a review. We'd love to hear that. We're here every week. We got a brand new episode every Friday, 4:20 a.m. It comes to your podcast app. So make sure to subscribe.
That you do that, by the way. That's still my favorite.
If you want to come on the podcast, please reach out to Tim or myself. Let us know what you got going on. Let us know what you would like to come on and talk about, too. You know, if there's a subject that you're like, hey, I'd love to bring this out and let people know about this, let us know, because I'm sure we're pretty open. Anything else you want to add real quick?
Stay safe out there.